Hello, welcome to Movement Not Miracles. I'm Anna from Eat, Move, Be Happy, and I just realised I've not taken my socks off. However, it is still a little chilly, and so I'm going to keep my socks on and keep my feet warm if that's okay with you. It won't hinder how I can do the moves, so we'll stick with that. So Movement Not Miracles is your bite-sized version to give you some ideas of how you can stretch and move through your joints, stretch through your muscles, to keep yourself, look after your posture and keep yourself mobile, to ward off some of those aches and pains that we can get from sitting in the same position for long periods of time. We are not designed to sit for long periods, and we're certainly not designed to sit in the position that chairs encourage us to sit in. Our hips get stiff, our back gets stiff, our shoulders become very round shouldered and we can slump and hunch down, and our whole posture is not the way it should be to be healthy. And so if you find that you've got some little aches and niggles, particularly as the day goes on, keeping moving is one way of helping avoid that. It's not a miracle, movement not miracles, but movement is a good thing to do more of, and doing something is better than doing nothing. So today I'm going to focus on a bit of an all-over stretch, so starting with our neck and our shoulders and then moving down to our hips. And some of these exercises anybody will be able to do. You can do them seated or standing. Some of the floor work, it might be that there's a variation if you are seated, and I'll talk you through that when we get to it. But to start off with, I'm going to start doing these standing. So standing nice and tall, thinking of as if someone's pulling you vertically, attaching a rope to the crown of your head. So just to start off with, rather than standing like this where we're all sort of slumped down, belly forwards and round shouldered, if we stand up, shoulders back and down, and think of growing tall, then that is a better position for us to be in. So standing nice and tall, we're just going to do some shoulder rolls. Now I've done these, well, I do them most days anyway, but I've done these on Movement Not Miracles every day this week. But actually, if you did nothing else to look after your upper back, shoulder rolls, if you do them properly, are a really good way of keeping your shoulders and your upper back healthier. So what we're aiming for, shrugging the shoulders up and then really squeezing the shoulder blades together so you get a nice stretch across your collarbones. And try and move your shoulders through every millimetre of space. And then you can take that to introduce your arms. So leading with your thumbs, arms as straight as you can, she says, noticing that my right elbow was bending then. So taking your arms back and really squeezing these shoulder blades on the back of your chest, in that they should be squeezed, really pinched together as much as you can at around that point. So your shoulder blades should move on your back. Through your shoulder blades moving, pinching together and then separating out, that's how our shoulder joint moves. So those wings on your back, as I call them, they should move. And keeping them moving is good. So now we're just going to take this into a neck stretch. So if you think of pushing one arm down, so your shoulder creates some more space between your ear and your shoulder, and then just drop your head over to the opposite side. So pushing away with that arm, and then we'll do the other side. We carry quite a lot of tension through the muscles in the top of our shoulders and into our neck. Typically we do. So just stretching through your neck is a good way just to help release some of that tension. And then taking that into the front of your shoulders and chest. So if you clasp your hands together behind your back and then think of shoulders back and down and really squeezing your shoulder blades together. So you are broadening across your chest. So you should feel a stretch across the front of your chest and also into the front of the muscles, your deltoid muscles in your shoulders. Try not to let your bum stick out, so it's really tempting in this one to let that happen. And we want to keep your bottom tucked under to protect that lower back. So again, make sure you are standing or sitting nice and tall. So we don't want to be doing this from this position. So if we're already slumped, you can see that I can't get an awful lot of movement through my chest, but from here, I can get much more movement through my shoulders. So if it feels a bit stiff and you feel like you haven't got much movement, check your setup. Check you're in the right position to start and then try again. Okay, now we're going to do a forward hang now, which is a really good way of stretching through your back and the back of your legs. However, if you have a bit of a temperamental back, particularly a temperamental lower back, then you need to do this one really carefully. Either do it seated, so sit in a chair and fold yourself forward, or use some support. So you can either use the wall, so placing your hands on the wall and sticking your bottom back, or use a work surface. So I've got a chair just out of shot here, so you can get everything in shot. You can reach forward and brace your hands on the chair so you get more of a stretch through your armpits, but pushing your bottom backwards, and that just helps protect your lower back. You're not going to get as much stretch through your legs or the lower back, but you're not going to hurt yourself either. So you do need to be careful with forward bends. If your back is fine, and just going to sort my trousers out. So have your feet relatively wide. So I'm using my yoga mat as a guide. So my feet are a little bit wider than hip width to start off with. Just means it makes it a bit less of a reliance on you being able to stretch through your hamstrings. So when you're in that position, I'm going to show you from the front to start off with, and then I will move to the side. So again, standing nice and tall. It looks like I'm on a slant to you there, but I'm really not. I'm level. It's just the way the camera's set up. Fold your arms and lift your shoulders above your head. Now, if you can get your shoulders back behind your ears, your arms behind your ears, then that's an indication that you've got better shoulder flexibility than me, and that's fine. But this is quite hard work for me and my shoulders because they don't bend very well. So when you're in this position, we're then going to think of folding forwards and hanging down and using our arms to pull the weight forwards. So if I show you from the side, I'm going to try and relax into this. So there's my setup, and then I'm folding forwards. I'm going to try and keep my legs vertical, knees straight. Oh, you can't actually see. Let me move forwards a little bit because you can't see my legs. So I have a tendency to do this and lean back, and we don't want to do that. So we're aiming to keep our legs vertical and think of making sure that your weight is evenly spread through the whole of your feet. So you should be able to feel your big toe, the ball of your foot, your heel, and your little toe on the floor. I sometimes lean towards the outside of my foot and my big toe lifts off, and that's not what we want. And just breathe and relax into this and see if you can stretch down a tiny millimetre more. Feel like I'm getting a little bit more stretch. It's quite a deep stretch in your the backs of your legs and your hamstrings, but actually I can feel a little bit more movement and stretch through my upper back and also into my lower back here, which is what we're aiming for. So this one, you reach your hands down to the floor if you can. I've rocked backwards. Lift your head up and then slowly come up. Then this one is a really good one to relax into. So if you've been sitting scrunched up for a long period of time, you might feel a bit stiffer. So it's one to ease into gradually, but it's quite a nice one to do. And then we're going to do a hip flexor. So we've got a bit of a stretch through our hamstrings, and we're now going to do a stretch through the front of our hips here. So these tend to, if we're sitting like this all of the time, your hip flexors shorten. And if you've got tight muscles in the front of your hips, it limits the movement in your hips. These muscles are the muscles that do enable us to do this and lift our knee up. But by definition, if we're sitting for long periods, they stay really short. And so often we get problems in our hips because our hip flexors are really tight, and so it limits the movement. So stretching through your hip flexors, particularly if you sit for long periods of time, is a good idea. So a really simple, basic stretch. And if you're like me, my hip flexors are tight. The fronts of my quads are tight as well, fronts of my legs. So think of, to start off with, kneeling on the floor. You might want to kneel on a bit of a cushion, something that's solid, but I'm on my yoga mat at the moment. Just to protect your knees. And think of standing nice and tall. I don't know whether you can see through all my layers, but standing nice and tall, pushing that hip forward. So we don't want your bum sticking out like that. We want the hip forwards. And so straight away I can feel some stretch through the front of that hip there. Now we want the body staying upright. The minute you bend through the hips, you're going to shorten that hip flexor, and that's not what we want. So think of pushing your hip forward, and then we're going to move. I'm just going to get a little yoga block to kneel on because that's a bit hard on my knee. So get your hips set up, and then we're going to move the whole of our body forwards to increase the stretch through the front of that leg. Now, if you are quite flexible and you're not really feeling much of a stretch through the top of your the hip flexor muscle, it's there's no stretch there, then lifting this leg at the back will increase that stretch. So if you rest this foot either on some blocks or against the wall and then step forwards, that's going to increase the stretch there. That's sort of a more advanced stretch. Just going to move back so you can see me a little bit. I'll try one more on this side. So really think of driving your hips forwards. So I'm really working quite hard through my glutes there. So these are not passive stretches. We have to work through our muscles to get the movement. Now, next way round, and switch sides, turn round for you. He's going to stretch the other side now. So set up, get your hips, let me see, hips tucked in, so we don't want that happening. You can see actually with the stripes on my tracksuit, so they should be dead straight. If there's a little bit of a curve there, it's because my bum is sticking out. So think of really pushing the hips forward and then just lean the whole body forwards. And keep breathing. Now, if you're anything like me, you might find that the stretch comes in your quads first, the front of your thigh, and they have to relax in order for you to get to your hip flexors, and that's fine. So just keep reassessing, resetting, pushing those hips forwards, and a nice breathe. So, some ideas on ways you can stretch through different parts, different joints, stretch through the muscles in your body and move through different joints. And keeping moving is a really, really good idea, little and often throughout the day. You can do shoulder rolls and side bends and twists and things whilst you're waiting for the kettle to boil. And it's a good idea to incorporate maybe a longer stretch sessions throughout your activity in the week. She says with a smile on her face, because I should do more, I could do more. Mental note. Check out the website www.eatmovebehappy.com for more ideas on how to look after your health and well-being. We have online coaching programs to help you with your eating and exercise habits so that you can be more aware of the choices you're making and the routines that you've fallen into, so maybe make some healthier choices. It's not about being perfect, it is about you feeling like you have some control over your eating and exercise, and we can coach you through that. And there are other health and wellbeing ideas on the website. And please do share the Movement Not Miracles sessions, because these sessions are free. Started during the first lockdown as a way to give people ideas to keep moving, and here we are. What are we on now? 10 months in? Is it something like that? 11 months in? So we're going to continue with Movement Not Miracles, and if you check out on the website, there's the archive of videos of the different sessions I've done over the last 10 months. So please do share. If we can help more people just keep a little bit more mobile, then that's makes me a very happy bunny. Enjoy the rest of your week, enjoy your weekend, and Movement Not Miracles will be back next Tuesday. Thank you.